Pleasure to welcome to the show Princeton goalie Michael Gianforcaro. Michael, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, my man. Well, congrats on a great season last season, but I always like to start this podcast by hearing the story of when you first jumped into goal. Do you remember that?
Yeah, so it was probably when I was 10 years old. I was playing for our local town team. And when you're 10 years old, you don't have one goalie for the team. So we kind of went back and forth. Some guys taking some games, and I played every position except for goalie. So I really wanted to try playing goalie. And my coach was adamant that I wasn't able to play goalie, that I had to play midfield or something else. So eventually, after I persuaded him, he let me play. I went in. I remember it was so vividly. I went in. It was raining. I had my sweatpants on. I let in probably like 15 goals, played terrible, but I loved it. And when I made one of the few saves I made that day, I was just in love with the position. So that was when I was 9 or 10. And then the next year and the year after, I only played goalie from then on.
I love it. I love it. You got hooked right from the very beginning. What do you think it was about the goalie position that sort of hooked you right away?
To be honest, I remember watching our goalies get scored on and thinking in my head, oh, I could do that. I could save that. And I ended up being wrong, which I feel like a lot of players, it looks easier than it really is. So I ended up getting humbled, but just the feeling of having someone stare you down and saving their shot, I think is addicting.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I remember I started out playing midi myself as well. And I remember that saying that exact thing in my head, like, oh man, I could have saved. No experience of goalie, right? But just seeing like the shot from like a third party perspective and being like, oh, I could save that. But when you're like seeing it point of view, it's way different. It's way different, right?
Right. Yeah. Humbling.
Humbling. Yeah, exactly. And why was it that your coach didn't want you to play goalie if you guys all rotate the positions? Is it because you were the best player out there?
No, I was certainly not the best player, but I grew up playing all these football. I was on the track team. I ran all the time. So I was pretty fast when I was a younger kid. So my coach was like, you're fast. You're one of the faster guys. You should be playing offense, defense across the field. It wasn't that he said, you're not allowed to play goalie.
Yeah.
And he was like, you play midi. Like that's what you do. You run a lot. And he told me no. So it probably made me want to do it even more. And eventually he let me, and I loved it.
I love that. Now, do you still run a lot to this day? Because one of the beauties of the lacrosse goalie position is that we actually don't have to run as much as the other guys. We still got to do all the training, right? But I'm curious about, sometimes people really love running, and I'm curious how your training looks running wise.
To be honest, I don't really do a ton of long distance running on my own. I really stick to our packet in the off season, and then at school I do the running with the team, which is all sprint work. I don't really love to run. Like I don't love to go run long distances. And frankly, I don't think it's particularly helpful for goalies. If you like doing that, I think keep doing it if you enjoy it. But if not, I don't really see a big reason to do that or to go start doing it.
Yeah, that's what I say too. It's like, I'd much rather you go run like 3 miles than like eat Doritos on the couch, right? but like if we're choosing between 3-mile runs and like 100-yard sprints, then like definitely the sprints are going to benefit you tremendously as a goalie for what we do, right? That explosion muscle, like building those fast twitch muscles.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Any kind of shuttle, quick. I mean, if you look at how linemen, their run test for an NFL or a college team looks very different from your wide receivers.
Yeah.
And I feel like in terms of how much linemen move in each snap and goalies, it's kind of similar. Like I think we're definitely not the same size as linemen, but it's all of those like linemen, DN, those 5-yard radius. I mean, we're not really moving past 6 feet.
Yeah. Although the last goalie I interviewed for the podcast right before this one was 6'5", 240 at his biggest. So some of them can be as big as linemen.
Some definitely can. I would not consider myself of that
stature. No, and me neither. So that is really interesting because a lot of people compare like goalies to linebackers because we have that kind of similar stance, right? Mm-hmm. But you're right in that the movement, like right off the whistle, like it is exactly the same as like an offensive lineman or defense line, the interior line, where you're just like, bam, that one quick explosive movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I never played interior line, so I don't know. I just watched the NFL.
Right. I could be completely wrong. I've not played either, but I think I think you hit the nail on the head, right? When the ball gets snapped, God, it's just like quick, like one step in either direction to really read the guy or the ball.
Yeah, I love it. All right. So age 10, you come back the next season and you're like, I want to play goalie. Do your parents then buy you like all the gear, or how does that work?
So we had like the rec league would have a set of goalie pads.
Okay.
And actually played, because there was another kid who wanted to play goalie. I played half the game long pole, half the game goalie. So my parents said, I think it's important that you have your own stick, so you don't have to keep using someone else's stick for goalie. So you can get used to throwing with it. So I had my own stick, but all the pads I used were teams. And then I slowly built up. So when I got a new helmet after a couple years, I put the throat guard on the old helmet. So now I had a stick and a helmet.
Yeah.
And then once the ball started getting faster, my parents thought you should probably get better goalie gloves. So I got real goalie gloves instead of player gloves. And then as I got older, so that was really like 6th grade, 7th grade. And 7th grade, I only played goalie. I know that to be certain. I only played goalie. And then by the time I was in 8th grade, I was playing with much older guys. So then I got all my own stuff, and I was completely committed to only playing goalie.
Yeah, that's a lot of parents who are getting started want to know about that. I think you did it exactly the right way. Like, that's the way I would recommend everyone. Like, the most important thing is the stick, right? And getting a well-strung stick that throws and you can trust. And so when you're going to spend that initial, I don't know, called 150, $200, like that's like the first investment I would make. Then the gloves, then like by item, just in case like your young kid says, you know what, I'd rather play long pole, or I'd rather do something else, right? Like, because you don't know if they're going to stick with it.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, stick's imperative. I mean, any kind of practice, it's also a much different stick than a player stick or even a long pole. So anything that you can get the kid to be able to practice with, I think is really important. And to be really honest, like, the ball doesn't move very fast when you're a young guy. So you can use the same stick for a whole season and never have any issues with it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when you get to the higher levels, you probably have to restring it. I mean, you probably go through a couple sticks per season minimum, but when you're a youth, like, you're not seeing as much wear and tear on that mesh. Like, it can last a long time if you take care of it.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
And then what about the cup? When did you upgrade the cup?
The cup was a staple at that.
Yeah.
My dad, the first time I played to the last, I always had my cup.
Yeah. I remember I started out with like one of those normal like bikey cups, they're just like the bare minimum of cups. And like I took a shot and like it still really hurt. And then not only that, like it deflected against my like inner thigh. So then you get like the groin shot and the thigh bruise. And then I looked at the other goalie, and he's got one of the ice hockey cups, and I'm like, man, that guy knows what he's doing.
To all the young kids, I would recommend, and to any goalie, I'd recommend going on Nutty Buddy, their website, and buying their cup. It is the best cup I've ever used. I'd rather get hit there than hit my calf. So I would recommend. We had one of the goalies who I played with at Princeton. He took a bad shot one time, and he asked me what I used. I told him. He went and bought the cup the next day. Never had a problem since then. I think it is an absolute lifesaver.
I love the Nutty Buddy. They sent me a free one to use. They're great guys over there. The owner, rest in peace, passed away. He took a 90-mile-an-hour fastball right to the junk from like 6 feet away. I'm like, if he can do that, like, that works for me. He got my trust.
Right. That was a selling point for me too. Yeah.
It's a selling... Oh man. All right. Love it. Cool. So then at that young age, how did you go about learning how to make saves? Was it attending camps, kind of learning from some club coaches, or what was it all about for you?
That's a good question. I remember I went to one headstrong lacrosse camp when I was in the summer after 7th grade. And so that would probably have been about a year, maybe, or a year and a half of playing goalie. And there's a goalie coach there, which I'd never had before. It's someone who really played goalie, knew what he was doing. And he gave me a few pointers, and we worked together. And that was kind of the foundation. But I spent a ton of my time on YouTube. So I don't know if it's still up there, but there's an old Trevor Tierney. It's like a 6-video series where he talks about positioning for one video, offside hip saves for one video. It goes all the way down, and I would watch those all the time and just do exactly what Trevor Tierney did. And that's where I learned how to play. A lot of the style that I play is based on that. And
Yeah.
I would watch college guys play and just study what they did. And if you go on YouTube and look up lacrosse goal, I mean, now I think that was all that was happening in like 2010, 2011. So now there's, way more camps. There's way more accessible videos. I mean, if you go on your YouTube, you can watch all these college goalies cut up, which I obviously didn't have when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
So I use a lot of fun.
Dude, I love that video series that Trevor put out. It's incredible. And it was like one of the first where like, coaches who actually did that. And like you said, now, like I've done that quite a bit. Like a bunch of other coaches have gone out with cameras and kind of just, taught the position and shared some thoughts and some ideas and drills and all this good stuff. But that was one of the first ones I'd ever seen. And it was tremendous. And what was really interesting for me is that it was a very different style than the way I was taught. Right. So I was taught like you step forward at the 45, right. And kind of attack the ball. Your feet are shoulder width apart. And here's Trevor Tierney with that wide base, feet almost on the goal line, stepping lateral. And so that was kind of the first like, aha, like maybe there is more than one way to play his position. Cause guess what? Tierney is pretty gosh darn good. But talk to me about that style. So that was the style then that you use, sort of a wide base, flat arc, step in lateral. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, that's how I play now. So
yeah.
He had a really wide. I don't know which one, if the wide base made me feel comfortable or I felt comfortable, so I did wide base. But when I play a lot of other sports, football, basketball, if I were squat in the weight room, I like standing pretty wide. So I just felt really comfortable with that base. I liked his 3-step arc he plays and how he kind of rotates around the middle of the goal. I like how he stands back on the goal line. He's one of the first guys to say you have, not much more time, but a little more time if you stand further back. So you got to find that. And I've messed around with how far I come out. I wouldn't say that there's one right way to play, but I definitely got a lot of my style from him. And then I remember watching the World Games when Canada won I want to say it was probably like 2012 when Dylan Ward had like 1 million saves. And I remember the announcers talking about a super wide stance. And I'm 5'11" on a good day, and Dylan Ward's like 6'5". So what works well for him doesn't necessarily work for all guys that are my size. Right. But I remember going out in my backyard and emulating that style too, which he plays different arcs, but his stance is comparable. And that's probably, those are 2 guys that I really base a lot of my positioning off of.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I think that's like, I watch a lot of lacrosse, which I love. I mean, I make a lot of these edits and I just love watching it. But one of the things that I see so much nowadays is like, yeah, you could be like, you don't have to be one style arc goalie, right? You could be flat arc, but then when there's certain like plays and even Dylan Ward, who everyone calls like this high arc goalie, he's flat most of the time. And then he'll choose his times to like come out and challenge, right? So you can be like, you could have this hybrid arc and have a lot of success, or you can, I mean, I know goalies that stick to just the flat and have success as well. So more than one way to make saves, right?
100%. That's something that Coach Madeline at Princeton, who played professional goalie for 10 plus years in MLL, he preaches that there's sometimes when you want to be flat, sometimes when you know that the shot's going to jump on you, so you got to get out and beat it. And just, messing around with it, trying out different things, and just everyone has their own style. So figure out when you want to be out, when you want to be back.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Love it. Was that the first seed of Princeton as well, watching those Trevor Tierney videos? Was that when the seed was planted or
I'd say so. I definitely didn't appreciate at the time who Trevor Tierney was and what his whole story was. I just thought that he was goalie with the YouTube videos. And then as I got older, I realized that he was really the man, and whatever he was saying was probably the best way to follow it.
Yeah.
Obviously, now I idolize Trevor, I idolize Tyler Ferrito and Alex Hewitt, and the guys that were studs back in the day, Scott Bacigalupo.
Batch, yeah. I sent you that clip I made of Batch, right? The video.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
He's such a great story. I mean, he's a amazing goalie. which by the way, like no one could play his style nowadays. It's so, have you seen like, he's like almost like straight up and down and like holding the stick in just such a weird way that you would see nowadays. Like the game's changed quite a bit. But anyways, a great storyteller, great guy.
Absolutely.
All right. So then talk to me a little bit about high school lacrosse. So it says you went to like the Culver Military Academy. Was that like a lacrosse decision or just that was kind of the school that you wanted to go to?
No, that was a lacrosse decision. So
Yeah.
the story behind that was I went to a school, it was a small private school in Delaware. So I live in Pennsylvania, right on the PA Delaware line. But so I grew up playing in Pennsylvania for the great club team or town team, I guess, called the Avon Wildcats, which they developed. I mean, there's so many college lacrosse players that come out of that program. So I lived there. That's where I learned lacrosse. And then when I was in 8th grade, all of my mom's family, she has 5 brothers, and she grew up in Delaware. And there's a small private school called Tower Hill in Delaware. And if you know, the only school that everyone knows in Delaware is called Salesianum or Sally's. And Tower Hill is like down the block. It's like Sally's little brother, basically. And if we played Sally's, we got beat by 10 goals, and they always killed us. But anyway, my mom's family, my older brother, my older sister went to Tower Hill. So when I was in 8th grade, I decided to go there too. They all went for high school. I went a year early. So in 8th grade, I played on the varsity team with all the high school kids. And our team was really good for Delaware. We ended up playing Sally's when I was in 8th grade. The game was, I think, 12-2 or 12-4 with probably 8 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Lightning. It was the state semifinals. Lightning called our game. It was 12-4. That was all we had. We got beat pretty bad. And then I played at Tower Hill my freshman, sophomore year, and I planned on staying there through senior year because my whole family went there. That was just what I was going to do. That's where I was going to go to school.
Yeah.
And then sophomore year and Culver recruits kids kind of like colleges do. They like to get them the fall, and then you come the next spring the next fall. They had a goalie lined up, and he decided not to come for one reason or another. I'm not really sure. So they called me in April. It was like the middle of April. I was in my season. I was just a sophomore in high school. And they said, "Hey, do you want to come to Culver?" And I didn't know what Culver was. I actually thought Culver was Calvert Hall in Maryland. And so being from PA, I was like, all right, Maryland, like I could swing that. And so I started Googling Culver and see what it was. And it was in Indiana, which was shocking. And it was a military school, which I also didn't really know what a military school was. And I learned when I got there that I was unsure. But so they called me and said, "Do you want to come play for us?" I looked it up. It was in 2017. They had just won the national championship and crowned the #1 team in the country.
Wow.
So I went from being on a team that we competed for the Delaware State Championship, and usually we didn't get past the semifinals, to now a team calling me out the opportunity to be on the best team in the country. So obviously I jumped on that. It was a big decision because I live in Pennsylvania. I went to school 12 hours away. My parents went through a lot to send me there, which I really appreciate. And that was kind of just it, literally from the time they first emailed me until the day that I decided, the day I visited, got accepted into the school and decided to go there, was like 6 weeks. And then
Wow.
I moved in August.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. And so is it like a boarding school? Like you live there and then maybe like come home on the weekends type of thing?
Yeah. So it's a boarding school. It's 92% of kids are boarders. 8% of them are day students because it's in a very rural North Indiana town. So just not a lot of kids live there. But the vast majority of kids are boarding students. And I mean, it was in North Indiana. So if we had a 2-day break, by the time I got home, it was basically Saturday or Sunday. So I didn't really.
Yeah. And you mentioned like I didn't know what a military academy was until I got there. I have an idea in my head of what it might be, but maybe you could just talk about like kind of what are some of the things you learned.
Absolutely. So for anyone who would love more information, if anyone's watching, there's the Under Armour Undeniable video that they go through like a whole week of Culver. And that was actually my first year there, my sophomore year they did this. And if you type in Culver lacrosse Under Armour, it'll come up. It's a great video. Basically what our day looked like was we woke up, you had to be awake by 7:30. But if you woke up by 7:30, you were kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit on the timing schedule. So wake up a little earlier, shower, get your uniform on. We all wore military uniforms. Clean your room, make your bed. You go out, march to breakfast, eat breakfast. This is all from 7:30 to 7:50, 8 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, you're back in your room. You get your room inspected by another student. Go to class at 8:30. While you're in class at 8:30, you have someone who's actually in the military, like an adult, come and really inspect your room, make sure it's clean. You go to school till 3:30, then you go to practice. And then if you're new, it's your first year, at night, you have to come back and you get your uniform inspected to make sure your uniform, you were wearing it right. If once you were no longer new, you'd have to do that. And then on Wednesdays and Sundays and Thursday nights, we had to march around a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of, to me, like what I think in my head is a lot of structure, right? Like a lot of, you gotta be here at this time, do this at this time. Like, my dad was in the Army, and it was like he would talk to me, tell me stories about, the inspections, and it's like, the bed's not made, and it's physical training, right? Or I don't know
Right.
what kind of punishments they do.
No, like nothing crazy. And I will say, it sounds a lot more serious than it actually is, to the people that actually in the military or go to West Point or Navy or one of the academy. We are
high school kids.
Yeah, we're high school kids. We just happen to go to a school that has a military structure.
Yeah. And then the lacrosse program, I mean, you had mentioned they won the state championship before, so you come in to a pretty good team, I imagine. How is that, for you? It could be tough coming into a new team in general, but now here you come, Pennsylvania kid coming from out of town, last minute call up. How was it for you joining that team?
It was tough, but not unmanageable. I mean, they were the best team in the country. They were national champs, and I came with a lot of kids who were really, really talented. Guys on my team were Owen Hiltz, Syracuse, great attackman, was in my grade. Cam Chevette at Hopkins. We had Mike Robertson at Delaware. Alex, like we just had, it was D1, every kid from top to bottom. So practice was run like a D1 program. You had to be there on time. You had to be ready to go. There was no room for, I'm not having a good day, so I'm going to mail it in. And it made you grow up really fast.
Yeah.
As much as it did for you from the school, our Coach Posner, loved to death, great guy, a father figure to many, me especially. He demanded that too. So it was difficult, but if you threw yourself into it like I did, you just try to keep going every day and get a little bit better. And it's honestly, if you treat the way I treated high school is the way I treated college, and it prepared me unbelievably well.
Yeah, love it. And talk to me about the growth of your goalie game. Was it at Culver where I mean, you really kind of shot up in skill, would you say?
Yeah, I actually was, when I was a sophomore at Tower Hill in Delaware, this was before the 9-1 rule. Yeah. So 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, I could be getting recruited, and I wasn't at all. I had, I think, one offer from one school, and other than that, no schools were calling me as not a superstar goalie. And then I went to Culver and I repeated, and the grade that I repeated into was a grade that was affected by 9-1. So once I repeated, I did my sophomore year again, and now I went from being in a grade, the 2019 high school class, where there were like 15 committed goalies, to now I repeated to the 2020 class where there were only 2 committed goalies. So I had much more options of places to go. And then I also had a whole season to prepare and play as a sophomore, unable to be recruited, to really grow before I could get any kind of attention from coaches. And that was when my game really took off, because like I mentioned before, I was going after, I mean, every single guy on our team went D1. So every single rep, I had a future All-American trying as hard as he could to score on me. Right. So, you let in a lot of goals. You don't make a lot of saves. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. But eventually you save 1, you save 2, you save 3, and then you can kind of get better. And when you go out and play against guys that aren't as good, it's like swinging with a weighted baseball bat. Like if all you do is that, when you go out to the game and it's not, the teams are not as good as us, it's all a little easier. And that's when you can really grow, especially when you go and play with guys that are your age again, and you're not a sophomore playing with seniors, you're a sophomore playing with sophomores.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're like, I don't know, a sixth or seventh grader and you go like see some high school shots, when you go back to seeing those sixth and seventh grade shots, like they don't seem as fast, right? You're like, man, I'm all over these. Like it's amazing how that works, how your body just sort of adapts to that speed. Cause at first, like it's fast. And I'm sure when you made the jump to college and when guys talk about making the jump to the pros, like it just everything's moving fast, right? And then you get used to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just, you got to just immerse yourself in that environment. And by the time you go back, it's like young kids playing up. You just put everything you have into it, let yourself kind of be put in your place. And then when you go back, you'll be a little better.
Yeah. And in terms of your recruiting process, then was like, I imagine because there's so many talented kids on your team, like a lot of coaches are watching your games and you guys go, pretty far and playing some meaningful games. They're watching your games. Did you have to do like the traditional, I make all these videos and send all these emails to all these coaches, like a lot of kids talk about, or were a lot of coaches kind of coming to you at that point?
So before I went to Culver and I was in Delaware, yes, I had my highlight tapes. I had one for every season, fall, winter, spring. And I'd send out emails, just email after email after email all the time, following up. Didn't have much luck. And then when I went to Culver, because we played on a national scale, a lot of coaches would come to our games. And then in the summer, we played in 2 high school tournaments. So high school teams would play other high school teams. And it was a summer ball. So it wasn't, real spring, but it was always had a ton of coaches there. They were always watching us play. And they'd come to our games because of where I went to high school. And I probably had a similar experience to a lot of guys that play in the MIAA or some of the elite DC or Long Island schools. Like, when you look at those guys, like they're pretty fortunate because they go to these elite schools, so the coaches come to them. Right. And then when 9 comes, it helps that your current high school coach just sent 3 guys to whatever school and has a great rapport with that coach. So on 9-1, when he wants to talk to you, he has a good relationship and can lean on your high school coach to know you a little better. And my high school coach, again, Coach Posner, he played a big role in my recruiting post 9-1 when I was able to be contacted.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. What was it, about Princeton that really, really caught your eye?
So, I mean, the education is obviously the biggest selling point. It's been year ranked the #1 undergraduate university in America. So, that you're going to graduate with a great degree, which is awesome. But there are other schools that have the name has the same amount of weight. So, there's a lot to pick from. But Coach Mads or Coach Madeline, our head coach, always speaks about the guys in the locker room and how that's the big selling point. Mm-hmm. And that's what it was for me. So I had a couple schools that I wanted to go to or thought about going to. I looked around, met some people. And when I came to Princeton, I felt like it was pretty special. The guys went out of their way to take care of me, be really nice to me. And I also saw how they all interacted with each other. Everyone was really mature, really thoughtful, very, very intelligent. And I thought that if I could get myself into that locker room, hopefully that rubs off on me and I can be like one of those guys. And ultimately that was my decision. Was I just wanted to go to a place where I could have these people challenge me all the time.
Yeah, love it. Well, you're coming off a great season. Congrats on that. All honorable mention, All-American. Right at the top of the leaderboard, nearly in save percentage. Just a tremendous season. So congrats on that. But I want to talk about that because at the beginning, you weren't the pure starter, right? You were splitting time, and a lot of youngsters that play club ball, that can be pretty common. You got two goalies on your club team. You play the first half, I play the second half. Talk to me about splitting time, because there are some challenges that some innate challenges that come with it, right?
Splitting time's tough because you're always comparing yourself to the guy who you're splitting time with. You think that if you have a tough half, tough game, if you let in a couple goals, like, oh, maybe if he was in, he would have saved those and our team would have won. Because I split a couple games and lost a couple games, and I felt like, man, maybe my team would be better off if I wasn't playing the half, So then you kind of have to wear some of that weight. And it's tough because in my position, the other goalie, Griffin Rathauer, who's now at Duke, is like one of my absolute best friends. So and there's just an innate competition. Eventually, one of you is probably going to play. The other one probably isn't going to play. It's kind of binary when it comes to playing goalie, which is tough. So, I mean, I would say we had an unbelievable relationship. And when he played well, I was happy for him. When I played well, he was happy for me. There was not like any kind of jealousy or like passive aggressiveness or pettiness, which is really helpful because then you can both grow and be better and push yourself and push each other. And that was the big thing. Like, we push each other every single day in practice. Yeah. If I had a bad day in class or whatever and I wasn't feeling it, I knew that if he came out and made 100 saves, my spot might be gone, and vice versa. So we were always pushing each other, like, one more rep to get better, which ultimately makes you both better. And I know it's a cliche, like, competition makes everyone better, iron sharpens iron, but it's like very, very true because it just forces you to really put a lot of attention to it. And at the end of the day, like, your team's better off because if both of you try as hard as you can, one person will probably win, and then your team has a goalie who just put months and months of preparation instead of rolling the balls out and just hoping to make a couple saves come game day.
Yeah, I love that. You're right. It's a tough dynamic, right? Because ultimately you're a competitive dude. We're all competitive people, and you want that starting spot. But at the same time, like, I think what you're saying is, like, you want the team to win more, and you're going to do anything you can to be a great teammate, even if that means rooting on the other guy if he ends up beating you out, right?
Of course. I mean, my sophomore year, Eric Peters is our starting goalie. Senior, we went to the Final Four, lost to Maryland, who ended up being undefeated national champs. And I didn't play one meaningful minute that entire year. And we went to the Final Four, and that was like one of the best years of my life. I mean, it's everything in that environment. And I was there in my jersey with my helmet on. Like, that was everything.
Yeah, sure.
And I didn't play at all. So last year we had a really good year. We thought in the beginning of the year, we thought we could be really great. We had these expectations. And I mean, play or not, like, I can name every national championship that Princeton won. I can name the year that they won. But I can't tell you who every single player was. I can't tell you how many minutes everyone got. But no one cares about who gets what minutes. Everyone just wants to win. At the end of the day, you want to raise the trophy. You want your class that you're on the banner. You don't really – I mean, playing time's playing time. That feels good for the ego, and it's cool to participate. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I just want to win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. And ironically, like, trying to be that guy and, like, trying to be the starter is, like, you're doing both, right? You're rooting on the team in the best way possible and being the best teammate, but you're also working your butt off to be the starter. Let's not be, let's not beat around the bush here. You're trying your darndest to make sure that you're the guy, right?
100%. Yeah. I obviously didn't want to be on the bench.
Sure. But I know exactly what you mean. Like, even though that you guys went to the Final Four, you didn't play any meaningful minutes, but you practiced with the team the entire year. Like, the games represent like such a small fraction of when you're with the guys. So, I mean, I would argue you are playing meaningful minutes, right? Like in practice.
Right.
Yeah. Love it. I know you've trained pretty extensively with Goaliesmith. Talk to me about that. When did that start? Because I love those guys. They're, I mean, best in the business when it comes to training. I mean, they've trained, like, the who's who of the elite college goalies, and even now guys in the pros too. But talk to me about training with those guys.
So when I was a sophomore, junior in high school, they came out with this video called Shot Stopper, which is like a 45-minute long video of basically how to play goalie. Yeah. And I followed them on Instagram, and they would always post these little clips of, and now they post more. They're actually starting to post more like instructional videos here and there, which I love because I think they do a great job with that. But back then it was just, here's what we think you should do if you play goalie, basically. So I followed the account. I used to look at all the stuff. And I DM'd them, and I was like, hey, I saw your Shot Stopper video. Just asked some questions about it before I bought it. And they were like, oh, you play Culver? And I said, yeah. I said, oh, well, when you're home, why don't you come work with us? And this was back when they would, I mean, now they have these big camps, they have a lot of guys come, and they're sold out every single time. This was back when they had, like, 3 goalies would come to the ECD headquarters and shoot on their turf that they had. And it was like 2 shooters, 3 goalies, and that was it. Because they didn't really have their brain was still like very small. So I came over for the summer, and it was the summer after my junior year. I remember I went to go work with them first, and I loved it. I mean, they're very passionate, they're very committed. They know a ton about playing goalie. Andrew and Mike Gvozden, Gilly, Drake Porter. I mean, Meg was the best goalie to ever play goalie. She won the Tewaaraton. Like, no one wins the Tewaaraton if you play goalie.
Right.
Their staff is unbelievable, and I bounce ideas off Andrew. I talk to Andrew probably once a week, bounce ideas off him. So I started working out with them after I was junior in high school, and their product is unbelievable. Their sell is that they're in Baltimore, so the best shooters always come. Like, when they were still pretty small, there was a period where I would go and get shot on with like 4 or 5 guys, and Logan Wisnauskas would be the shooter all the time.
Yeah.
Logan is one of the best players to be in the league right now.
Right.
So it's elite coaching, guys that really know the position with elite shooters. And where I'm from, you can't really get that. So it's not a very far drive. I go to Baltimore very often, and they're awesome. I love them. Can't say enough good things about them.
Yeah, same here. They've participated in a lot of the events that I've done, and I always love their sessions, man. They're such great goalie minds. When you say I bounce ideas off of him, if we could get a little insight into what that looks like, is it like just little tweaks to your game? Is it more mental stuff? Like what kind of ideas do you guys chat about?
So as I get older, the ideas become a lot more nuanced.
Yeah.
Because my game is less malleable now. When I was a younger guy, like, I still had the flaws were more overarching than they are now. Now they're small flaws that can eat away at you. Before it was like, you're not standing right. You know what I mean? Like, by the time you get to college, you kind of know how you're gonna stand. But now what I talk about a lot is like I mentioned, small nuanced things. So like I'm always pretty insecure about the way I stand, because I feel like, I'm not a very big guy. I have a super wide base. I have a big 5-hole. Like, and it's not the traditional way to teach someone to stand. Like, guys don't stand like I do usually. So I texted Andrew the other day, and I was like, "Hey, Andrew, like, I know I'm beating a dead horse. Like the 100th time I've asked you, but like, should I change my stance?" And he's like, "No, like you're 22, like just make saves." I'm like, "All right, you're right." But the other times I'm like, "Hey, up the hash, I'm getting beat on this side. Like, what do you recommend?" He's like, "All right, like if you see this, do this. If you see that, do that. Try out these 3 things and then go from there."
Yeah.
So it varies. There are times where I come out and I'm like, "Hey, I need help with this," and they're like, "No, you don't. You need help with this." So then we go back and forth and kind of go. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love it. That's interesting. You say the way you phrase that is like, once you get to college, my game's not as malleable, because you're right. Like when you're learning the position, there are like huge sort of flaws or like huge changes that a coach can like point out that like, kind of take your game to the next level. And then, once you get to those upper levels, it is more nuanced, and a lot of it is mental too. It sounds like every once in a while, goalie just needs that, like, dude, you got it. Like, quit worrying, man. Your stance is great, right?
Yeah, that's something we work on a lot. It's nice to have someone that can put you in your place when you need it, but also build you up when you need it.
Yeah.
And Mike Gvozden talks a ton about the mental side. He is a really cerebral goalie. He talked about in college, like, he was just lacrosse 24/7, and how that can eat away at you. And he met with sports psychiatrists, and they gave him tips about, outlets to get your mind off lacrosse. And he is like, probably when it comes to goalie coaches, one of the most dialed in at playing at a really high level and being very in tune with what it takes and the pressure that is placed on you.
Yeah. Let's talk about the mental game a little bit, if we could, because this is a very mentally taxing position, and to have success, you got to have mental toughness, right? You let in a couple goals, and a lot of goalies, just kind of spiral out of control or get into their own head, or start thinking like, I'm not a good goalie. What do you do? Or when I say mental toughness, what kind of like lessons come to mind for you?
That's a good question. I mean, it's so cliche, like short memory, like wipe it off. But like, we had practice today. I can tell you probably every single goal that got scored on me, where it was in the field, who shot it, and where the ball went. I just don't like forget those things. It's just so ingrained in me. I can go back, and our last game we lost to Penn State, and I can actually walk you shot by shot, goal by goal, where they went, what happened. And I think about it when I close my eyes at night. Like, it's like so ingrained. So the whole short memory thing, I just can't. That's not for me. I can't really subscribe to that. But one thing, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim, Focus Lacrosse, his brand. Tim does such a good job with the mental piece because, I mean, he's spot on. Like, playing goalie is not very hard when it comes to like physically playing goalie. A lot of goalies, what separates the good from the great is the mental side. Sure. Like you look at these PLL goalies, these elite college goalies, like they're not that different in terms of their ability to save hard shots or whatever. But like the ones who crumble and the ones that don't is kind of a big difference. And he talks about just constantly reaffirming that you're okay and to stay present. So you're not focusing on your feet, your hands, the shot, etc. You're just focusing on finding the ball. When it comes at you, just get in the way of the ball, save the ball, catch the ball, however you want to phrase it. And I think he is spot on. Like those days where, and I think every goalie has this feeling where you look back on certain games where it was like slow motion. The ball was glowing, you could hear it, like everything was just effortless. And you always want to tap into those games. And that's what you're chasing, to be like that all the time, But those days, when you think about it, like you were never worried about how your stance was. You were never worried about what arc you were playing. All you were worried about, when I think back and I like remember living those games, I can just see the ball and I can just feel myself go to it. And I was super present in those games. I was not thinking about anything except for just like literally the task at hand. And I think he does a great job highlighting that. And I think it sounds so simple, and it's super fundamental, but it's not simple. You know what I mean? Like it's really hard to do, but it's really it's simple. It's not easy. It's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah.
So like tapping into it, he says it's great. Just like be present. Just like let all the noise go and just find the ball. And that's what I try to do every day.
I love that. How do you, as somebody who then, has such a great memory for all the goals given up, or is that just like after the fact? Are you in game? Do you give up a goal and you're like, you have the ability to sort of move on and remain present? Or when you do give up a goal, is there like a specific process or routine that you go through to sort of come back and get to be present?
Yeah. So in game, as much as I wish I wasn't like this, I can still tell you, like, if you pull me out in the second quarter, I can tell you everything that just happened. Like, that's kind of how I work. I don't know. Everything is the high scrutiny. So after I get scored on, what I always do, I turn around, I get the ball, I squeeze as hard as I can, and I just tell myself that, like, I get angry. I get all the anger out.
In the squeeze.
But squeeze the ball. Something Brian Dockery talked. Brian was like, I get the ball, be like, Brian, you're terrible, whatever, like all this you can imagine. Squeeze the ball, and then once you hand it to the ref, like it's over, like it's gone. So get it out, get rid of it, and that's what I try to do. Like so I turn around, get the ball out. You're terrible, whatever, which you're not supposed to say, but like whatever. Throw the ball to the ref, and then I turn around and look at the defense. I'm like, all right, usually it's damage control, right? Like how often in a college game can you actually look and diagnose what went wrong? Like very, very seldom. So I like to kind of play damage control. Like if it's a shot that I probably should have saved, even if maybe I shouldn't have, but like I thought it was a chance, my fault. Move on. Like I got you guys, on me. It's not probably on me, but like, what are you gonna do? Say it's your fault? Like that doesn't help anyone, So try to do quick damage control. If it is something like, hey guys, the scout said that we're gonna do this and we didn't just do that, then like quick reminder. But like the whole huddle up for a minute, I think is pointless. So just everyone calm down. It's okay, get it out. And then while I do the face off, reset the ball, in my head, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what did I do wrong on that shot? And a lot of times, if I get scored on, what I did wrong is I never saw the ball. So if it's an in-tight goal, I'm like, you know what, like, whatever. I'm not perfect, whatever. But if it's anything from, like, 6 yards and out, I think in my head, like, did I see the ball? And I can think of one super clear. There's a kid, his name, I can't remember his name. His last name is Smith. He plays with Penn. It was an Ivy League championship. He caught it. It skipped it across him. I think we were either up one, or I think we were up 2-1. I don't remember. But they skipped it across him the fourth quarter, I think. And he shot it 6 feet high, and I dropped, and it rang off the pipe and went out. And then they called it a goal, and I don't know if it was or not, but it was like an unbelievable shot. And after the ball went in, I was like, man, I dipped, I did all this, but like, in the day, like, I never saw the ball, like, and you can't see it if you don't save it. So, did I do whatever? Yeah, but like, you didn't see it. So next play, see the ball, and that's it.
Yeah. And when you say I never saw it, like, you picked it up really late, or literally like, it was in the goal and you never saw it?
I mean, I think you got to read body language, be in the right position, but like, I mean, sometimes, like, a lot of these times, you're playing college lacrosse, the ball moves so fast that it can get skipped, catch it, release it, and he's releasing like a 90 to 100-mile-an-hour shot. So like, if you're really, really on it, you didn't see it at all. Like, I could have my eyes closed, same thing would happen.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. So you guys, you have like, let's call it like an average season, right? I think you were like maybe 7-6 or 8-6 heading into the Ivy League championship tournament. And there's got to be a feeling of like, hey, we got to win the tournament to keep on going, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Talk to me about that. I mean, is that, is that something you guys used? I mean, how did you really rally the troops to go on such a nice run?
So we have every day before practice, we stretch, bring up a circle, quick message from one of the captains, one of the seniors, and then go to practice. And for about, 2 weeks leading up to that game, the message was, look, if we lose, like, at-large bid is gone.
Yeah.
The year before, Final Four year, we didn't even make the Ivy tournament. We were in 5th place in the Ivy. We got an at-large bid as like one of the best teams. I think we were top. We might have been like 4 or 5. I don't remember, but like, we had home games, because we beat Georgetown, and that was a great win for us, and that got us an at-large bid. But like, this year, that's not happening. So we brought up, like, look, fellas, like, at-large bid is over. Like, that's not our thing. Our RPI is horrible. Like, so flush that. The only way that we can get in is if we win Ivy games. So even though we have 2 Ivy games left, if we lose this game, we're done. So we're playing playoff lacrosse right now. Like, no one's coming to help us. No, we're not, like, no one's gonna come out and save it for us. Like, we need to go out and play right now, because every game is playoff lacrosse right now. And we looked around and be like, look, like, the best part of my day every day is lacrosse. And I have my best friends on the lacrosse team. I do everything with those guys. Like, that's it. And if we lose a game, that's over. Then you're going to take your final exams. You're going to go home, and there's summer break for you. And we were just fighting every day to not let that happen. We just kept saying, like, another win is one more practice we can be together, because you only guaranteed certain practices. You win Saturday, awesome. You now have 5 practices left, and then you got to win again to get 5 more. So it was basically like, look, fellas, like, if you love this, give everything you have. If we lose games, we're done. So just embrace it, cherish it, and play so we can keep playing together.
Oh man, I love that so much. That gets me pumped. feel like getting out there and strapping on, playing some lacrosse right now. Awesome. Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show, sort of sharing your experiences. I think we hit it all, huh? Anything else? Any other stories you want to tell, or things you feel like we missed?
Not that I could think of, but I appreciate you having me on. And I mean, some great questions. A lot of tough ones to think about.
Yeah, I like it. What kind of stick setup do you use these days?
So I use the ECD impact head. I use semi-hard impact mesh. I am using a STX side tie. I think it's an S shaft. But the Eclipse 3 just came out, and I string my sticks. So I got a great pattern in my impact that I really liked. I'm working on finding a pattern in the Eclipse 3 and seeing if I like that one better than the impact or not. But so right now it's impact, side tie. It might be Eclipse 3, Hero Mesh, side tie. I don't know yet.
Yeah, all right. I love the impact. It is so light. I mean, my hand, I have like this is a String King 135 gram, like a tack shaft on here. And this thing feels like a feather. Like, I feel so fast with this thing. I don't know if you feel the same.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great head.
All right. couple Impact fans, but what I mean, the Eclipse 3 is also a great head as well. So but I don't know. I haven't. I need to play with it more and talk to more goalies who have used it. But you haven't. Have you been playing with it yet, or you just started?
No, so our two other goalies in the team, I strung up theirs yesterday, so they both use it in practice today. So I've like taken some shots with it, felt it. It seems really, really stiff compared to other heads. They bulk up the scoop and the sidewall. So it seems like a lot of the shots go off the top of your stick and go in.
Yeah.
It seems like greatly reduce that. Everything about it just seems like stiffer up top. So I don't know yet, but I'll let you know once I figure out a pattern if I ever like it.
Yeah, definitely keep me posted. Now, do you guys get, as a D1 program, do you get any equipment that you want, or are you out of pocket to get some of these other heads that might not be that your school doesn't, I don't know, like sponsored by or whatever the right term is?
Yeah, so we're Nike SDX. So anything Nike or SDX get, the mesh, we have shrinking and ECD, I don't know, deals, I guess you call it. So we get all the mesh. The heads we don't get for free if it's a non-Nike SDX, unless you're a specialist. So face-off guys and goalies can use other brands. I'm pretty sure that we can use ECD as a goalie because ECD is not, I don't know if they're looked at as a competitor the way that Warrior might be to SDX.
I see. Yeah.
So because I'm a specialist, though, there's a lot of schools. Like I don't think anyone uses SDX at Notre Dame, but Edelman uses the SDX head. McNanny used the head, even though no one did. Rupel uses ECD. Somebody else I'm thinking about, I can't remember. But anyway, I know a lot of the specialists. Noons, uses an Under Armour head. So yeah, you get away with it. Luckily, goalies get lucky. You can get away with a lot of different stuff for gear wise.
I like it. What about the gloves? Do you know what gloves you use?
Yeah, so we're using the STX Cell 6, I think, is the newest. They have new razor ones with the fingers that look like player gloves.
Yeah.
We don't have that. We just have the old ones, which I'm a big fan of. I think the thumb is very protective. I used Cells when I was younger, and I've seen how far the thumb has come, and it's much better.
Yeah.
I don't cast my thumb like some goalies do. I'm trying it out. I'll see, but yeah, I like the S6 one a lot.
Yeah. I know a lot of goalies that do add like a little, thumb splint or custom thing in there because it's tough. I mean, it's like, I don't feel like any lacrosse company, if we're being honest, has like completely mastered the thumb protection technology. I know you talk to any goalie, they'll have a story about, I broke my thumb in those gloves. Those suck. And I'm like, really? I think they're the best on the market.
Yeah. I was one for the cast just because I like to hold my hand like right up in my stick. And so if you add an extra big piece, you can't really do that, but I'm going to try it out.
Yeah.
Can't break your thumbs. Is a one shot and you're out for weeks.
I know. So you're like right up here on the throat when in your top hand setup.
Yeah. So if you take your right thumb and you actually put it in the pocket right there, and then you
like
turn
in that little space right there.
Yep. So my head's slightly, my knuckles are out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Me Lawrenceville, shout out. He taught me how to hold my stick like that.
Yeah, I like it. And is that one of the things that some goalies have taught me is or at least said is like, then like the low and away shots, when you got to get that wrist rotation, it kind of like impacts that, but not for you. You've got that down. So
actually the way that I hold it is my head's kind of tilted. So, like usually if you hold it like this, when you go down, you need to, it's called, was called breaking your wrist to turn the stick up.
Right.
When you have your thumb in there and it's already angled, you don't need to break your wrist. It's already angled. So you can just go straight underneath. So it's actually less movement. Yeah.
And do you find yourself then like going over the top a lot more as opposed to like coming underneath for off stick shots?
I would say I was taught in high school to go under a lot. I don't know. I don't know. I think I subscribe more to the Trevor Tierney, like just step and punch. Yeah. And the goal does a good job of like, when it comes to over or under, if you just see the ball and you have a good body read at it, your body's going to pick one.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't have a great answer for over under, to be honest.
No, it's all good. It's all good. The more that I see kids, the more I do try and preach over, because I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of kids, like as soon as you come under, like the shoulders start to go this way, you know, they start to turn. And then you talk all about like, well, keep the shoulders square, and you try and do all these things about keeping the shoulders square. But like when you go under, like your natural reaction is to do that. But if I go over the top, like I don't have to fight against that. So I like going to the top, but I know there's more than one way. But to your point, like top hand straight to the ball kind of like solves all of those, right? Like you just go straight to it.
Mm-hmm. I was also taught that if the ball's going lower than you expect and you go over, you can kind of punch the hand down more and like get your body down and still save it.
Yeah.
But if the ball's higher than you thought and you're under, this save is really, really hard to make.
It looks good, but it's really hard to make, right?
Right. Yeah. So go over it a little more.
Make the simple saves.
Right.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for joining the show. If you had to leave the goalies out there with a final piece of advice, what would that be?
Great question. Just if you want to play at the next level, whether it's middle school to high school to college to pro, which I don't really know anything about, but just do everything you can to learn the position, play the position, just absolutely dive into it with everything you have.
All right, my man. Good luck in the upcoming season.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.